This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Saturday. This is the Dr. Sem Yankees Show. Good morning. Let's make today a great day. Why? Because we have within ourselves the ability to make every day the best it can be. Sometimes we have to look hard to find the good. But if we look hard enough, we usually can. So take the time, try to find the good, and make today the best possible day it can be for you. And then share that goodness with everyone else in your life. I'm a firm believer that when we give kindness, that kindness comes back to us in greater amounts than we ever gave. All right, so this is our Yankee program. 30 minutes of baseball talk, mostly about the Yankees. I've got notes and ideas and all sorts of things. And unfortunately, the half hour always seems to go much too quickly because there's so many things I would love to talk about. And there just isn't enough time. But that's what makes it great. That's why people love sports, right? Because there's so much to talk about. And you can never get your fill. So there's a lot of talk this week, as there has been all winter, about the fact that the Yankees still need to address left field. And according to the talking points from Yankees general manager Brian Cashman, it seems as though the front runner going into spring training in just a few weeks will be Aaron Hicks. Now, Aaron Hicks is one of those players who is extremely talented. He's a guy who can run well, he can field well, he has good bat on ball skills as a hitter, he has power. I mean, in many regards, he seems like the perfect player for a team. And the Yankees banked on that when they signed him to a long-term contract a number of years ago. Unfortunately, because of injuries or whatever, Aaron Hicks hasn't really performed well for the entirety of his Yankees career. In fact, last year was the first season where his batting average from year to year since 2017 actually improved from one year to the next. Before last year, his batting average, and I understand batting average is just one small measure and it doesn't tell the whole story. And I get the idea of WAR and OPS plus and on base percentage and all that. But I'm still a believer that batting average tells at least part of the story. And when we only have 30 minutes, we have to sort of find the statistic, the idea that can make the point quickly without laboring into deep statistics for hours on end. But anyway, listen to this. In 2017, Aaron Hicks hit 266. That's nice. The next year, 248. Not so great, but not so bad. That's a base hit basically once every 4 at-bats. You go 1 for 4. You're going to hit 250. He hit 248. For all intents and purposes, it's the same. 2019, he dropped to 235. In 2020, he dropped to 225. In 2021, he hit 194. And then, as we say, last year, his batting average went up for the first time as a Yankee since 2017. His batting average climbed all the way to 216. Now, let's just take this apart for a moment or two. This doesn't require in-depth analysis. Those just aren't good numbers. The guy hasn't hit over 240 since 2018. It's a long time ago now. He hasn't hit over 230 since 2019. His last 3 seasons, he hit 225, 194, and 216. Now, you might say, well, he hasn't played a lot, so he hasn't had a chance to get his batting average where it needs to be or his power numbers where they need to be. Well, his power numbers aren't great either. In 2017, he hit 15 home runs. Not bad. 2018, it was a much livelier ball. He hit 27 homers. In 2019, he hit 12. In 2020, he hit 6. That was the COVID year, so maybe double it and add a couple more. What's that, like 15, 16 on a full season? In 2021, he hit 4. And last year, he hit 8. And again, maybe you'd say, well, he just hasn't played a lot. The guy, he's been injured. He's out of the lineup. If he played, if the Yankees could get him consistent playing time, that would all improve. Unfortunately, he's not a guy who stays in the lineup. And this is the player the Yankees are talking about making their starting left fielder. The most amount of games Aaron Hicks has ever played in a season was in 2018. He played in 137 games that year. The most amount of games he ever played in a season was 2018 when he played in 137 games. I just need to repeat it because what? He's never even played in 140 games in a year. A season's 162 games. He's never even played in 140. And then here's the thing that's most people don't know. It's going to knock your lights out or whatever. It's going to amaze you. Last year, he played in 130 games. That's the second most he ever played in his whole career in a season, 130 games. Last year, as he hit 216 with 8 home runs. So it's not like, well, he's coming off an injury. He's coming off a year where he didn't play as much as he normally does. No. He's coming off a year where he played more than he normally does. The third most amount of games he ever played in a season was 123 back in 2016. So just think about that. This is a player, might be the nicest guy in the world. Again, like when we talk about baseball players and their performance, it has nothing to do with if they're good people or bad people or whatever. Aaron Hicks seems like a decent human being. He seems like a great guy to hang out with. I hear he plays golf. I don't. Maybe he could teach me someday. Might be fun. But as a baseball player, a guy whose batting average has dropped virtually every season since 2017, whose power numbers are really not all that good, and who can't stay in the lineup, this is the player that the Yankees are saying, we think that's the guy who's going to really be the guy in left field. This will be his 11th season in the big leagues. And it's not like he's young anymore. This will be his age 33 season. Yeah. The age when players start to decline appreciably. Usually the prime is considered 28 to 32. And once you're 33, you're sort of out of your prime. You're entering your decline years. To me, it just doesn't make sense. You can't put your eggs in the basket. If you want to be a team that wants to be taken seriously and say, we are going to be one of the contenders for the World Series, the numbers I just shared don't really seem to be numbers that make you say, I'm real confident we're going to get great production out of left field. I just don't think the Yankees are. And it all has to do with the luxury tax. And I'll talk about that in just 1 second. Ian O'Connor, the great writer, has said that the Roy White book that I co-wrote with Roy White, From Compton to the Bronx, which comes out on April 11th, 2023, he wrote, Roy White is as dignified a Yankee as there's ever been. One of the many reasons a generation of fans, myself included, grew up imitating his stance. Paul Semendinger does a masterful job capturing the essence of the great left fielder. This is a must read about the most underrated Yankee of all time. If you haven't pre-ordered From Compton to the Bronx, you probably want to. You know what I love about pre-ordering books before they come out? Books that I really anticipate. You buy them ahead of time, and then you sort of forget about it. Like, yeah, I think a book's coming in a couple months, but life gets in the way. And then all of a sudden, the day the book is released, you come home, or thereabouts, of course, and the mail comes, and all of a sudden there's a package, and you're like, ooh, I got something. I wonder what I got. And then you open it up, and oh my goodness, the Roy White book finally came. And then you're excited. It's like getting a gift twice. It's like extending a holiday. So, From Compton to the Bronx, a must read. Make sure you get your copy. Pre-order it now on Amazon or go to your bookseller or wherever you buy books. You know, people are asking me, are you doing appearances? Are you meeting with Roy White? Are you getting yourselves out there? Absolutely, positively. And if you go to start spreading the news, and there's our web address. If you go to start spreading the news, there's a little banner in the upper right-hand side of the screen, and it says Paul Semendinger or Dr. Semendinger Book Talks. If you go there, you can click on there, and it will talk about show all of the times I'm visiting libraries, all of the times I'm meeting with various chapters of the Society of American Baseball Research. And it will also show, once we have them finalized and scheduled, all of the times that Roy White and I will be meeting at various places to talk about the book and for you to have a chance to meet Roy White and get his autograph. You can also get mine. Of course, let's be honest, I think Roy White's autograph's a lot more exciting than mine, though I do enjoy signing books. Like this one, The Least Among Them, award-winning book that I wrote. If you haven't gotten your copy of The Least Among Them, you probably want to. Scattering the Ashes, the world's greatest novel of all time. I promise if you read it, well, I can't promise, but I think you'd love it. And my book of inspirational, motivational quotes, Impossible is an Illusion. So let's talk about that Yankees salary cap. I'm just reading on Major League Baseball TradeRumors.com that the luxury tax limit that the Yankees don't want to cross is $293 million a year. Now, a great case can be made that a team doesn't need to spend $293 million to be competitive. And that's correct. Sometimes people say that the Yankees are being cheap because they're not addressing left field and getting a significant player, to play there. I understand that line of thinking, but I don't think the Yankees are being cheap. The Yankees spend money. I don't think they spend it wisely. The Yankees' salary right now, according to MLB Trade Rumors, the article that's up there right now, says the Yankees' payroll is $292.3 million. That's virtually 292.3. They're 0.7, $700,000, I guess, away from the luxury tax and having to pay more. EJ Fagan makes the point on the Start Spreading the News podcast here, always at Monday nights at 9 p.m. He made the point, if you're going to go over the luxury tax, you don't want to just go over it a little bit. You go get a superstar and you go way above it. If you're going to go above it, go big or go home, right? So I understand the idea of not getting a mediocre player to go above that and just barely going above it and playing double or paying a price on that player who you just acquired more than he's worth. I get that point. So the Yankees aren't being cheap. They're spending a lot of money. I just don't think the Yankees spend their money wisely. It seems as though they make decisions. This is just my perspective, but it seems like they make decisions one after the next, each individually, without looking at the grand picture. For example, last year they made a big trade with the Twins that brought them Josh Donaldson. And Josh Donaldson's making over $20 million a year in his decline years. He's in his late 30s. I think he'll be 36 this year. That's not a trade that you make if you're worried about crossing certain luxury tax thresholds. You don't invest $20 million in a fading former superstar to play third base if you're worried overall about crossing a limit. But the Yankees made that trade, added to their payroll, and then they sort of turn around and say, oh, well, we couldn't get somebody else because we're paying too much money for this. That just doesn't seem like a smart allocation of resources. When the Yankees signed Aaron Judge and they had the big press conference, I recall them saying, we're going to address left field. We're not done yet. We've got lots of things to do. And then they went out and they signed Carlos Rodon. Great signing. I'm thrilled. They get a great left-handed pitcher for the rotation. The Yankees starting rotation looks great. But then they basically went, hold on. Oh, now that we signed him, we really can't address left field. And that's, like, to me, feels like a lack of foresight, a lack of great planning. What they should do is they should say, these are the salaries we have. This is how much money we have. If we're unwilling to cross the luxury tax threshold, which the Yankees' willingness or unwillingness to do, that's a whole different discussion. I say with the money the Yankees have, they should go way above it. Always, they can afford it. But that's a different discussion. We can't afford X or we can't afford Y. We shouldn't make the trade for the very expensive third base guy in his fading years because that's going to get us too close to those other things we need to stay under. But it seems as though they go, well, we have tons of money. We're the Yankees. We can do whatever we want. And then they get these guys. That's just one example. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, but once we sign Judge, and then once we sign Anthony Rizzo, and once we sign Carlos Rodon, no, we don't have any money left. We'll just put Aaron Hicks in left field, or Oswaldo Cabrera, or Estevan Florial. Yeah, one of those guys could do it. It'll work. And the truth is, when you put little Band-Aids on a situation, it usually doesn't work. That's just the sad reality, right? So that's my frustration with the Yankees, is they're not being cheap, but they're going about left field with the feeling that they're being cheap. So there was great discussion on Start Spreading the News yesterday about the Yankees and their off-season signings: Rodon, Rizzo, Judge, and Tommy Kahnle. And the writer, Derek McAdam, who contributes very often to the site and has very good articles always, as all the writers do, but he gave each of these deals grades. Go on the site, read the article. It's a great article. And then, obviously, there was a lot of discussion. I think there's 30 comments right now on the site based on that article. And McAdam gave the Judge signing a C+ because he said, you had to bring him back, which I agree with, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a great deal long term. And I said, I admire you for giving that deal a lower grade, because we'll see how it turns out, because almost everybody else is saying that the Judge signing is an A. And I agree with the line of thinking that says you had to bring Judge back. Judge is the Yankee superstar. Judge had to come back. The Yankees signed him. They have him for the next 9 years. It all makes sense. I get all that. The problem is, and this is the comment that I made, the problem is that the Aaron Judge signing eats up a lot of that salary cap space, or the salary space that goes underneath the luxury tax, which serves as a salary cap. Of course, there's no salary cap in baseball. I'm going to clear my voice for a moment. We're going to go to a quick commercial, and then I'll be back to talk about that in a little more detail.
Supporting the needs of our veterans. That's the goal of all of us at Team AmVets. Like Mitch, Carlos, and Kevin from our Welcome Home team that brings furniture to our vets.
We are Team AmVets.
Or Linda from our thrift stores who brings you great bargains every day.
I am Team AmVets.
And John, who picks up your thrift store donations that support California veterans programs.
I am Team AmVets.
Visit our website or Team AmVets thrift store to donate or shop today.
Join the team!
And here we are back again. Thank you. Had to clear my throat there. So if you have $100, or let's just make it easy, you have $1 to spend. If 25 cents of that dollar is spent on one thing and you're only willing to spend 75 more cents, then that 25-cent item that you bought gets in the way of being able to acquire something that costs 80 cents, or a collection of things that cost 80 cents or 85 cents or 90 cents. You can't do it because you're not willing to go over $1, and 25 cents is spent on that one thing. I'm making that point about Aaron Judge's salary. It's the biggest salary on the Yankees. And I'm not saying the Yankees shouldn't have re-signed him. They absolutely had to re-sign him. I'm thrilled Aaron Judge will be a lifetime Yankee. We're going to talk about lifetime Yankees in a moment. But the Aaron Judge signing, if the Yankees remain committed to staying under that luxury tax threshold, could get in the way, and I think is getting in the way, of the Yankees building the best team possible, because they're not addressing left field because they ran out of money. Why did they run out of money? For many reasons. But the biggest chunk in their salary structure is Aaron Judge's contract. When the Yankees signed Aaron Judge, they needed to do two things. They needed to say, we have to keep Aaron Judge, yes. But they also needed to make a commitment to say we're not going to be bound by that luxury tax. Because if we are bound by that luxury tax, that's going to tie our hands because we're paying one guy too much money. He's taking up too much of a percentage of that luxury tax. That's the point. So Aaron Judge, if it's not his fault, but if the Yankees use that contract, if they add up their money and they have a refusal to go above a number, they're not going to be competitive, or they may not be competitive meaning winning a World Series, if they don't address all the positions because they're not willing to go over a certain luxury tax threshold. When they signed Judge, they should have said, the heck with the luxury tax. We'll pay whatever it takes because we want a team that's going to win the World Series. They're not doing that. They're paying Judge whatever it takes. Great. But then they're saying we also have to stay underneath an artificial limit that was put on us because we don't want to pay certain taxes, which I get. But you sort of can't have it both ways. And that's what the Yankees are trying to do. And in trying to do that, they're saying we're the big team that spends all the money that's necessary. But we're going to go with a guy in left field who, well, hasn't really been all that great. The article on the site today that just went up this morning, Saturday morning, is by veteran writer Tim Cable, who also does a phenomenal job for us at Start Spreading the News. And it's about the 500 home run club. Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge both have an opportunity in their career to reach 500 home runs. It's not often that a team has two members of the 500 home run club at the same time. Tim Cable makes the point that the only team to ever have two such players at the same time were the Red Sox when they had David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez. Right now, Stanton has 378 home runs. Judge is getting close to halfway. He's got 220. So if Judge hits 30 this year, he'll be on his way to halfway. He'll be at the halfway mark. If Stanton hits 22, he'll cross over 400, and then 500 becomes definitely in his sights. That's kind of exciting. But I made a list of the 500 home run club. And would you believe only 5 players in that club of 28 players, only 5 of them ever played for the Yankees? Wonder if you could name all 5. Some might be easy. One of them I think is tough. So here they are. Of course, the first one's Babe Ruth, 714. Next is A-Rod at 696. Third, Reggie Jackson, 563. Fourth, Mickey Mantle, 536. And the fifth guy who played for the Yankees at some point in his career, only 5, was Gary Sheffield with 509. I think people forget that Gary Sheffield hit that many home runs. And of course, Sheffield played on a lot of teams. He was a Yankee for 3 seasons. Babe Ruth was a Yankee for a long time. 13 seasons? He came in 1920, and his last year was probably more than that, 34 or 35. So it's at 16 seasons, something like that. A-Rod was a Yankee for 12. The only guy on that list who was a Yankee for his entire career, Reggie was a Yankee for 5. The only guy on that list who was a Yankee for his entire career was Mickey Mantle at 536 home runs. So that's kind of fun. Barry Bonds, the all-time home run king, his father played for the Yankees, Bobby Bonds, for a season. Ken Griffey Jr. at 630 home runs. His dad, Ken Griffey Sr., played for the Yankees. But of the guys in that club, 28 players, only 5 were Yankees, which is kind of interesting. Usually I think of a lot more guys being Yankees. Wish we had more time because this is something I want to get into in much more detail. But Scott Rowland just got in the Hall of Fame. Scott Rowland, of course, is a deserving member of the Hall of Fame. They usually say 60 WAR is the dividing line. If you have 60 or more WAR, you're pretty much a Hall of Famer. Now, of course, there are other factors that go into that, but that's usually the cutoff. Below 60, it's a tougher argument. You can make it, but it's a tougher argument. Above 60, yeah, that's usually a Hall of Famer. Scott Rowland's WAR was 70.1. So that's a comfortable Hall of Famer. But with Rowland getting in, the next highest third baseman in history, according to WAR, is a guy whose WAR was 68.0. Again, significantly over the 60 threshold. And his name, this guy right here, Greg Nettles. Greg Nettles was underappreciated when he played. People did not realize how good he was, and he was overshadowed by Brooks Robinson. I had an article about a week or so ago, which I reran from about a year ago, where I show that Nettles was actually a better defensive third baseman in many of the years between 1970 and 1975 than Brooks Robinson. He outperformed Brooks Robinson defensively in a number of those years. But back then, they just gave the Gold Glove Award to Brooks Robinson every year. It's third base. Give it to Brooks. There wasn't, or it doesn't seem like there was a whole lot of thinking involved. And there were other third basemen like Aurelio Rodriguez and Buddy Bell, Clete Boyer. There were other third basemen who were great defensively who got overshadowed and overlooked because they just gave the award to Brooks Robinson. I make the argument that if Nettles had gotten a couple of those Gold Glove Awards, he only got 2 in his career, only after they stopped giving them to Brooks after he won, 15 or 16 in a row, something like that. If they'd given some of those to Nettles, maybe people would say, the guy won 5 Gold Gloves. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But even without that, he has a 68 WAR. He's the highest third baseman who's eligible for the Hall of Fame who's not in yet. So I think it's time, and we'll jump deeper into this at another point, for Greg Nettles, when that committee meets the next time to look at the players of the 70s, that Greg Nettles gets his due and is admitted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. All right, that ends my show for today. Stay tuned at 8 for the Saturday morning debate show. I won't be joining you today, but I'll see you there next week. And of course, I'll see you Monday nights at 9 on to start spreading the news show. Have yourself a most wonderful day, a great weekend, and always look for the good.